Joining me now, Payne Capital Senior Wealth Manager Courtney Dominguez and Moody's Chief Economist and their Managing Director John Lonsky, as well as the Independent Women's Forum Director of Policy, Hadley Heath Manning. Hadley, let me go to you first. Once again, everyone's surprised. Everyone's shocked that this economy, which is supposed to be late cycle, is going back as far as 2016, acts like a young whippersnapper. It's gone and it's going and it's going.
Yes, this was a very good jobs report. Good news to start our weekend. Not just that top line figure, the unemployment rate at a 49-year low, but also if we look at the unemployment rate for specific groups, including women, Hispanics, Americans with no college education, Americans with disability, and our veterans. There are record lows among those groups, and we also see a positive trend when it comes to wage growth, not just nominal wage growth, but real wage growth, meaning taking inflation into account. This means Americans are making more money, taking home more of the money that they're making. This is good news for the millions of Americans in the workforce.
You know, John, one of the things she just mentioned, less than high school, workers out there with less than high school diplomas went down 0.5, right, of a percentage point. Bachelor's degree actually went up. Now, we're still at 5.4 versus 2.1% unemployment. But this gets to the point that we are seeing an economy where it's just not about the upper echelons of our economy, but folks with less than high school diplomas getting out there and getting big-time jobs.
Rising tide lifts all boats. That's what's going on right now. And it's so great to hear that people from the bottom rungs of the income ladder are finding themselves better off because of the economy, because of the policies of the Trump administration.
You know, Courtney, I go back to the jobs report last year that was on February 2nd, and it was for January. It beat the street. Initially, the market went up, and then it crashed. The Dow was off 666 points because wages are up 2.9%. Well, we've been on a stretch now, a long stretch where we're over 3%. Why? What has changed for Wall Street? Why is Wall Street okay with these numbers when historically a report like this would have instantly triggered some selling?
Yeah, I would actually argue that Wall Street isn't necessarily okay with it. We're seeing the numbers go up, but this has been one of the most hated bull markets of all time. And numbers keep coming out that we aren't expecting. The estimates are so low right now, but we're seeing really good data coming out, which is showing how strong the economy
really is.
Well,
why is the market reacting the way it is when often in the past, even going back again to that February 2nd report, it crashed?
You can only take good data for so long without ignoring it. And I think people are finally not ignoring that any longer.
Good news is good news.
Good news is good news.
And let's not forget, inflation's well contained. Core inflation, 1.7%. My goodness, the past 25 years, it's averaged 1.7%. So I think Wall Street is getting over its inflation phobia that's brought on by a very low unemployment rate.
Hadley, and of course, getting back to the original premise here that this is supposed to be a late cycle economy, a late cycle economic recovery. It's over a decade old. A premise was brought up this week that I find pretty interesting. Since we had the Great Recession, the Federal Reserve has toyed around with all kinds of different experiments, quantitative easing, Operation Twist, things like that. Some are saying, hey, maybe we'll never have another recession. Is that too far-fetched right now?
Oh, I mean, I would never say never, right? But I do think it's important that we continue to keep the right economic focus in place when it comes to our public policy. For example, I believe that a lot of what we're seeing right now is the result not just of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act with a really job seeker focused and job seeker friendly labor market, but we're also seeing the effect of deregulation. It's basically a business friendly climate right now when it comes to our public policy approach. And if we continue to take that approach, then we're definitely reducing the chances of a recession or a downturn that affects Americans and their families.
John?
I want to quickly add, our friends down under in Australia have not had a recession in more than 20 years. So come on, where our recovery's 10 years old. Maybe we have another 10 years to go.
So some of the other potential inputs now, the market obviously, we've got a wind in our sails. The economic data is getting better and better. First quarter GDP was better than anyone thought. The last spending number we have from consumers was better than anyone thought. Retail sales was better than anyone thought. Today's jobs number is better than anyone thought. Is this the kind of fuel that this market needs? Because it looks like the Fed is on hold for now.
Oh, I could not agree with that more. I mean, we're seeing a really strong consumer right now. We're seeing wages go up, unemployment's going down, and consumer spending is almost 70% of GDP. So having a strong consumer right now means that we're seeing a strong economy. And that strong consumer starting to save more and add more money to the markets, that's really going to be the catalyst we need to see the markets go even further.
And I will add that, unit labor costs are very well contained. Incredibly enough, we have this 3.6% unemployment rate. In the first quarter, unit labor costs up by only 1%. Last time we had a very low unemployment rate, year 2000, unit labor costs rising by nearly 4%. And that gave the Fed and the markets an excuse to take interest rates up to levels that would help trigger the 2001 recession.
Hadley, I've got a minute to go, but I do want to ask you, to me, the worst part of this report is the continued mass exodus of workers from the labor force. I think it's more than older workers and attrition. And I think this also echoes back to when you look at some of these polls out there and even politicians, why there's still a part of our economy, a part of our society that doesn't seem to be participating in this.
That's right. I mean, that labor force participation number is very important. I think it sort of acknowledges that we have problems when it comes to the right job seekers finding the right jobs, having the right qualifications, having the right education, also avoiding some of the pitfalls. For example, we have a huge drug abuse problem in this country that keeps some people sidelined from participating in the economy and participating in the right jobs. So
Right.
I agree with you that we do need to address labor force participation, be sure that we have that figure as high as possible. But we also saw very strong job growth and the addition of good jobs. So, of course, the unemployment rate is a function of both of those numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Believe me, it's something to be addressed. Overall, though, it's a remarkable report. Thank you all very much, Courtney, John, Hadley. Really appreciate it.